we've drawn one of my favorite shots here. This is a chip shot because it's uphill, and it's a good lie, and you never play a pitch shot if a chip shot will work. So let's go at this with an 8-iron. The fact that this is a fairly steep uphill lie, even the 8-iron is going to propel the ball fairly high in the air. And it's my judgment that it can land safely on the green without overrunning the hole. Remember now, there are two grips in golf. One that's used for all shots except putting and chipping, and one that's used for putting and chipping. In this grip, my hands oppose each other a total of 90 degrees. The lower hand is 45 degrees back of the shaft. The upper hand is 45 degrees ahead. The arms are attached at a 45-degree angle. I then settle myself over the ball with the ball in the middle of my body with my weight off balance a little toward the front so that I strike the ball a slightly descending blow. Then with no wrist motion at all, I try to propel the ball on the green on the fly and let it run its way toward the hole. If I've got the right club and the right distance on the green, it will stop fairly close. Glenn, what club and what shot would you do for this ball?
I would use a 7-iron and chip and run it.
I think that's a wise decision, so let me have the 7-iron. However, we've placed another ball here that's approximately 3.5 feet in front of this one. And that's going to change this shot into a 6-iron. But let's try this one. The club selection is vital. In this case, I'm using the one-lever stroke, ball in the center of the body, weight off balance toward the front foot, hitting the ball safely on the green like a spot boulder, and keeping the wrists out so that the ball will have no backspin, and let the ball hit on the green and run toward the hole. Now, this shot is exactly the same, but since it has to pitch a much shorter distance, then I want a club that's got a little less loft so it will cause the run to be a little greater in relationship to the distance that it's carried. And since that other club was the perfect one, I think this is the perfect one for this. If I hit it just safely on the green, it should stop close enough to the hole for one putt. And there's one thing I'd like to get on record right now. Anybody that puts it from this far off the green with a putter, and me putting it with the right club, I think I can beat him. Let's go at it mathematically for a second. If I carry a 3-iron 3 feet on an average speed of green, either uphill or downhill, it runs about 10 times as far as it carries. On the other hand, if I'm carrying the sand wedge on that same green, 3 feet, it runs about 1.5 as far as it carries. And yet you could say, well, why not pitch the sand wedge farther so it runs? That's drawing to inside straights in poker. We want you to hit the shot that has the least air time. If I'm that close to the edge of this green, I want my 4-iron, because the 4-iron on a fairly slow green will run the ball about 5 times as far as it carries. So I'm only going to carry it here. I don't want to hit it here. I want to carry it just safely on the green so that it becomes more and more accurate. The more it runs, the less hard you have to hit it, and the less hard you have to hit it, the more accurate it becomes. If the combination of two distances, distance on the fly and distance on the run, permits me to use a 5-iron or a 6-iron, I hold more of them in one than I take 3. But if the green is of average speed and level, the 3-iron will run the ball about 10 times as far as it carries. The 4-iron about 9 times as far as it carries. The 5-iron about 8 times as far as it carries. The 6-iron about 7 times as far as it carries. The 7-iron about 5 times as far as it carries. The 8-iron about 4 times as far as it carries. The 9-iron about 3 times as far as it carries. The pitching wedge about 2 times as far as it carries, and the sand wedge about equal distance or a fraction more than it carries. The putter will hit it straighter than the chip shot, no argument. But it's got to traverse through terrain that will will negate that advantage. Certainly, if you don't know how to chip, putt it. But let's get so we know how to chip. Let's discuss some problems that we see in the chipping area every day. Glenn, loan me the 3-iron, please.
Why a 3-iron from here, Paul?
Because, Glenn, in this case, if I use a more lofted club than the 3-iron, I have to hit it farther in the green to make it run down to that flag that's 60 or 70 feet away from me on a green that's a little on the slow side. So in the case of the problems that we're going to discuss, so many students keep their weight too far back, and even if they made a good stroke, they scoop the ball and have it flop up in the air and come down like a wounded duck, and it doesn't run true on the ground. But if they were to take a less lofted club, keep the ball back far enough and their weight far enough forward, that they would automatically strike the ball a descending blow and make the ball go low on the green and run its way down to the hole. There's no sense in hitting the ball a mile up in the air when we've got enough room to let the ball skid its way down to the hole. Now let's discuss a very common fault in the chipping, and that is where the student, especially if the hole's that far away, wants to turn around and get a look at it. He wants to be looking at it almost as he hits it. The end result is that the swing's going to be going well to the left, even though he's set up to it fairly well. But as he hits this, because my shoulders are too open and way over here, he's making a stroke that causes the ball to go way over there, because he hasn't gotten his body in anything like the right position. The line across your hips, shoulders, thighs, toes, all want to remain the same. Let your weight go forward without opening up. Keep your shoulders in the right position so that when you make your swing through it, your swing goes in the direction you hope it will go. Incidentally, I was pretty well satisfied with the pattern of those shots in that last chip group. Now let's try one from a little shorter shot. In this case, I'm using an 8-iron, which is a little more lofted club, and I wanted to get this home to the audience, and that is that as the loft on the club increases, the ball should go a little farther back toward the back foot, and the weight should go a little farther toward the front foot, so that you are striking the ball with a little of a descending blow, letting it land safely on the green and trickle its way down to the hole. Most players in the shorter shots, where they're using a more lofted club, have a greater tendency to keep the ball too far forward and their weight too far back. So we want to get home clearly to them that as the loft on the face of the club increases, the ball wants to go a little farther back, keeping your body, everything at parallel and right angle, so that you're making a stroke that puts no side spin on the ball and as little backspin as possible. And you get that by keeping your wrists out of it and stroking it smoothly with your arms, letting the ball carry on the green and run its way down to the hole free of English. It does give a good result. Now a few suggestions about practice procedures for fun and games in chipping. I might add, to begin with, that most players should putt this, because it's only a foot to 18, 20 inches off the edge of the green, with the speed between the two grasses almost identical. They would get a better result with a putter because they're more accustomed to using it. But they must practice then with the chip shots until they are as comfortable with the chip shot as they would be with a putter, at which time they'll have a better result putting it with the lofted clubs instead of putting it with a putter. And here I've got a 4-iron in my hand because the distance I'm going to hit the ball on the fly is only about 2 feet, and the green's a little on the slow side. So I've got a fairly straight-faced club that I think will stop the ball very close to the hole, hitting it that way. And the shorter I carry it on the fly and still have it reach the hole, the more accurate it's going to be. And I keep 20, 25 balls in my pile and keep doing this at that distance until my touch can just feel instinctively how far to go back and how far to go through it to make the ball get to the hole with a little to spare. And then if I've been practicing enough to get my directional control, I'm going to have considerably better than an average of 2 from shots of this distance. Now that's a fairly good grouping. The one shot was a little too bold. Then when you've practiced at this distance, you use the same technique where the flag is a little farther in the green, With you the same distance, you'd take a straighter face club. Or where the flag remains constant and you get a little farther off the edge of the green, you'd take a club with a little more loft. And then you go through the same practice procedure again. The technique is important, but you're not going to get the use you should out of it unless you practice. Practice, practice, practice for touch. Touch cannot be taught. You have to acquire that. We now know how to hit our putts and our chip shots with a one-lever stroke. We've talked about techniques that will make you a better short game player. We've looked at typical problems and we've learned how to cure them. Most importantly, we've learned how to practice for fun and profit. Have a wonderful time with your short game and your lower scores.